Welcome back to Nuno Solutions, guys. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a scripted API or a web service in ServiceNow. And I'm going to be using Postman to post JSON payloads to our ServiceNow instance. If you don't have Postman, then I highly recommend that you download it. It's a great tool to test web services or web APIs. So the first thing you want to do is you want to log into your ServiceNow instance like I have here, then click System Web Services Scripted REST APIs, and then you want to click New. You want to give your REST API a name. Okay, something nice and simple. For the API ID, you can let it auto-populate, but I'm just going to call this dev for now, and I'm going to hit submit, and then we're going to do a search for, actually, let's search for Nuno. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here it is, Nuno Solutions, my REST API. You could ignore this one, I disabled it. Click on the one that you created, and a couple things you're going to notice here is you have the API namespace. This is like an auto-generated ID that gets appended to as the base API path of your web service. So you'll also notice that the API ID and the API namespace can get combined or concatenated to generate this. So now if you scroll down to the bottom, you want to, in this resources tab down here, you want to click new. And this resource is going to be called incident, because what we're going to be doing is creating and updating incidents. And then for this HTTP method, you want to make sure it's post. And then for relative, you want to set that to incident as well, /incident rather. And I'm actually going to right click and do a save, just so this gets created. And now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. Actually, first, before I do that, let me go back. And now we're in the Nuno Solutions My REST API. If you scroll down, you see you have a resource here called incident. Click on that, and we'll get in there. And scroll down to the bottom here, and you want to go to this script section here where you see this here. You could click this little button here, toggles full screen. That way you maximize the script. And I'm actually going to copy and paste a pre-created script that I have. And I'm just kind of going to go over it for you guys so I don't waste too much time. So in ServiceNow, if you want to build an integration that's customized, you have to at least know basic JavaScript. If you don't know basic JavaScript, please Google it on YouTube and just do searches, because there's so many videos teaching how to do JavaScript. That's the scripting language used for integrations. So I created a function called log, and all it is, it calls this gs.log method that takes in a message and a title, or a source rather. And so because I don't want to keep having to write this source like this, I just want to be able to just call a log function. You can see it down here. Let's see, right here. You see I'm calling the log function. I'm just passing in a message. It's just easier to write in the code. Anyway, I just put that at the top here. It's just a helper function. You don't have to use that. You could actually just write this gs.log instead if you want to in your script, but I like to do it this way. So first thing we're going to do here is, imagine if you have a B2B integration with a customer and they have their own ITSM platform. Let's say they have their own ServiceNow instance, and now they want to they create an incident on their ServiceNow instance, and then they want to, when they hit save, because they picked your company as the assignment group, it's going to try to post their incident information to your API ServiceNow. To your ServiceNow instance via APIs. So when we receive it, we actually receive it as a JSON payload. If you don't know what a JSON payload is, I'll just kind of show you here kind of what it looks like. This is what a JSON payload looks like. It's like a human readable text format of data. It's like a data structure, right? And you'll see it's like you have the name of the variable, and then the value of the variable, and separated by the label, and the value is separated by a colon, and each property is separated by a comma. So you have a created by, a number, external incident. I'll go over this a little bit later. If you're not familiar with JSON, again, YouTube it, because there's a lot of stuff on it. That's not the purpose of this video. So let's go back into the REST API script. So the first thing that I'm doing here, I'm just logging the body that's posted into our REST API. And you'll see here, I actually have request.body.data. This is actually the JSON payload that's posted to our instance. And by logging it like this, using this JSON.stringify is a built-in JavaScript function that'll just take a JSON payload and convert it into a string. So I'm converting the JSON payload into text format, and then I'm logging it to the log. And by the way, when I say I'm logging it, I'm actually over here on the side here, we have system logs all. I'm gonna hold Control and left click, opens up a new tab. This is what it looks like. This is the log. You're actually gonna see an entry in here. Under message is gonna be the message, and then under source is that source that I was talking about, this right here. You'll see anything created by our script is gonna have the source of Nuno Solutions _client _REST service. Next part. So I declared a few variables. The answer is going to be the response that we're going to return back to the application that called our web service. So it's basically the answer is going to contain, if we created an incident, it's going to return the record ID. It's going to return a message that the incident was created, and I'll show that more further at the bottom. But this is essentially going to contain the response. And you'll see I'm creating an empty object currently. Data is just so I don't have to keep typing request.body.data. There's just a reference variable to the actual data of the body. Incident found, this is a Boolean that I'm setting to false automatically as a default, because this script is going to be able to either create an incident or update an incident if the incident already exists in our system. GR, this is the glide record. Basically, we're creating an object using the glide record. This is like a built-in thing into ServiceNow. You could Google it if you want and look at their documentation to read up about it. But essentially, it allows you to update an existing incident or create a new incident. That's all it does. And I mean, you could actually update any record pretty much as long as you specify which record type you're trying to update. In this case, it's incident. And then we have a comments variable. This is just a variable that I'm using to store and concatenate the either journal entries that are going to be added as activities in the notes tab of the incident. In the first step here, all I'm doing here is if the JSON payload that was passed to us, so the data.external sysid is populated, then I'm going to create a query here. And you can read up about how to do these encoded queries. There's actually ways in the GUI that you can generate these automatically, but I'm not going to show how to do that here. You can look that up yourself, or maybe I'll create a video later. But anyway, essentially what this is doing is it's trying to search for the external sysid that was passed into us through the JSON payload. When this grnext function is executed, if it returns true, that means the incident was found. So if the incident is found, I'm actually setting incident found to true here, because depending on whether the incident already exists or not, I'm going to be doing different things down here in the code. So right here is an example. If the incident was not found, that means we're going to log that we're creating a new incident. So in the log, we're going to generate a record that's going to say creating new incident. And in the comments, this comments variable, we're going to set this external incident created by, and this is the person in the JSON payload, right? When you're here, let me click on the create one. We have a created by property, right? And I'm setting that to Nuno F Pereira for now. And so what we should get is in the activity section in the note tab under activities, should see an activity created that says external incident created by Nuno F Pereira. And that's only if the incident was created. If the incident is found, then we're going to just create a log that says that we're updating an existing incident. So then the next step is we're checking if the comments property was populated. That's this comments field right here. If this is empty, then we're not going to add any journal entries into if it's an update, we're updating an incident, we're not adding any comments if it's empty. If it's, obviously, if you look here, obviously, if in here you see I'm populating comments. If we're creating a new incident, we're actually creating a journal no matter what. An activity in this case. But if we're updating, we're not actually creating anything. We're just logging that we're updating an existing incident. But if comments is populated, we're fetching the last added journal entry to the existing incident. And then what we're saying here is if the current latest activity does not contain the comments that were sent to us through the API, if it doesn't include it, that means we have to add it as a new activity. So if the incident was found, then we're going to say here that this was created by who was created by. And the reason why that is because the reason why we're only adding the created by this section here, only if the incident is found, is because when the incident is created from scratch, we're already saying that the external incident was created by and who it was by here. So we don't want to add that twice. And then down here, we're setting the comments variable to the existing comments that's already there, just in case it contains this already, right? Carriage return, or line feed rather. These are actually /ns or line feeds that just like pressing enter basically on your keyboard when you're typing. And we're adding the comments that were passed in. And that's pretty much it. So, and I'll show you how that looks like once it's created. And then the next section here, we're actually grabbing all the variables that are sent to us, all the properties that are sent to us, number, short description, incident state, that's being sent to us. We're just updating the existing incident. Or obviously, if it's a new incident, we're just setting these properties. It's the same thing, right? Oh, one thing real quick. So any property in the incident that you see that starts with U underscore is a user defined property that was added, or column. I think they call it a column in ServiceNow. And I added a U underscore external sysid, and I added U external number. So this is so that in our ServiceNow platform, we could store the sysid from the customer's ServiceNow instance and also their incident number. And this is how the B2B integration is going to know which incident to update when you're doing a bidirectional B2B. That's the reason why we need this. They need our incident ID and our sysid. I mean, our incident number and our sysid, we need theirs. So if there's a hold reason, right? If the JSON payload contains a hold reason, we're going to concatenate the hold reason into the activity comments. And now in this next section here, so incident state, if you're not familiar with incident state, real quick, I will show you this, how to see what the incident states are. There's incident states are actually numeric IDs. Here, I'll show you when I click a new incident. When you go to the incident state, you have text-based incident states, right? New, in progress, on hold, resolved, closed, cancel, right? But these actually have ID values, right? If you want to see what those ID values are, you could actually right-click the label and then do config, show choice list. That takes you to the table where they have the choices. Now, this is a little bit confusing because it's showing us the choice list for like everything, every table. We actually have to filter this out. So you click this filter button here and click and here, and you're going to add a table expression here. We're going to say where the table is, and we're just going to set this to incident because we're only interested in the incident table. So we're going to run this. And now you can see all the states that are valid choices as for an incident. And you can see here you have new, in progress, on hold, resolved, closed, and canceled. And then that's the label. And then the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it goes 1 through 8. 1 being new, 2 being in progress, 3 being on hold, 6 resolved, 7 closed, and 8 canceled. Okay, so I just wanted to point this out. This is how you can see what value represents what label for a state. Let me go back into the script here. So what we're saying here, and I put some comments up here so it's easy to see, if the incident data that's sent to us from the customer, if they updated the incident state to resolved or closed, and you can see here I do an and expression, if the incident state is not closed and it's not resolved, then we want to update our incident state to the incident to match the incident state of the customer, just in case they updated the state of the incident on their end. And then if the state that we're updating is 3, which is on hold, you can see here 3 is on hold. That means we expect to receive a hold reason whenever the incident is put on hold. And now hold reason number 4 by default is awaiting vendor. So this is just the way I built it. Obviously, you could customize this to do whatever you want. If you had custom hold reasons with your customer, you could actually just add the hold reasons to your system, and they the ones that they have or whatever it is that you want to do, and they could just pass their hold reasons to you directly, and you could just set it through code here. But I'm just using the ones that are out of the box. If the incident is resolved, that's where it hits here. So if the incident state is 6, which is resolved, 6 resolved, but our incident, the one in our system, right here you see where I'm saying where the state is not equal to 6 and the state is not equal to 7. This basically says we're only updating our system to resolved if it's not already resolved or closed in our system. So here we update the state to the state that's sent to us, which would be state 6, which is resolved. And then we're going to set the close code it's a hard-coded value that I added in here called solved permanently. You could obviously customize this if you wanted to. And then I'm setting the close notes to whatever close notes they sent to us. So let me pull up Postman. Let me minimize these. I'm going to go to a sample that I already created. Here's a resolve. I actually include the close notes and I include a resolved by. And so this is what will get inserted into the close notes of the incident when we receive a resolve incident message or payload through the API. And then I have a little bit of code here, which essentially all this does. I've already created a user called dev. And this just basically sets the resolved by to the dev user that's already in my system. You have to add your own user if you want. And if you like this, the problem is it's like you'll have to do like some kind of a mapping thing with your customer to map users if you wanted to do this. You don't have to do this step, but I think when you're resolving and stuff like that, it's very unlikely that you're gonna have the same users in your system that your customer is gonna have. So typically when you do a B2B integration and you redo a resolve, you're gonna set the resolve to a very specific user, which is typically a customer B2B user in your system that you created. So, and then we call gr update here. What this actually does, it actually either creates an incident or updates an incident. If the query at the top here did not find an incident already in our system that's matching or existing for the payload that we receive, then the update is actually going to create a brand new incident. Otherwise, it updates the incident that it found. And then once the update is successful, this is where we build the API response, where we're setting the external sysID to our sysID. We're setting the external number to our incident number. And then we're adding a message, incident blank, yada, 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 created in external instance. And then we set the body of the response to the answer. This way they receive that. So I'm actually going to save this script and we're going to test this out. Okay, so it's saved, it's up and running, it's active. Let's go into incidents. How do you post from Postman to our ServiceNow REST API? So I'll show you. Open up the REST API. Search for the REST API that you created. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to copy the base URL, which is I'm on a developer instance. This is https://dev103199.servicenow-.com. Yours is going to be different, but you want to copy that. And then in Postman, what you're going to do, I'm going to minimize this, and I'm actually going to delete these. I'm going to use this, so I want to do this from scratch so you can see how this is done. So I'm going to add a new request here. I'm going to set this request to a post request because our API has to be a post. Remember that. I'm going to change the title of this to create incident. That way I can easily see over here what it is. By the way, you see it still shows as get. Just hit save and that gets updated. And then in the post URL, we're going to paste the base path. Go back into ServiceNow. Go down to your resources. You see the incident over here? Click on incident. And right here it says resource path. Highlight it. Right click copy. Go back in here. Paste. And just you see how there's 2 slashes here. Just make sure there's only one. Save. Go into the body, select raw, change the text to JSON, and I'm actually going to copy it from something I already created here. So this is the JSON structure I'm actually going to be submitting, and I'll go over what these fields mean. But before we do this, let me save this. In order to post to our API, the API has to authenticate, and you're going to set an authorization in here to basic authentication. I'm not going to do it yet because I want to show you what happens if you don't set that. So let me go over the JSON API real quick. So obviously we have a created API. This is the sysid. This sysid is the record ID. So you got to imagine this is as if the customer from their ServiceNow is sending you an incident. So in this sysid, they're putting their incident's sysid. And the number, this is going to be the client's incident number. Short description is their short description, the description from their incident. The state, obviously if you're creating a new one, it's going to be state 1, which is new. The priority, the assignment group, this assignment group, Nuno Solutions, I've already created in my ServiceNow instance. And I'm adding a comment here. This is optional, obviously, but this is going to end up becoming in the note tab of the incident. I'll show you that. It's going to become concatenated into the activity. So I'm going to hit send, and it's going to fail. It's going to fail because the user is not authenticated. Now, I already have a user created, so I'm going to hit authorization. I'm going to change the authentication type to basic authentication. And the user I created in our system is Nuno Solutions. So I'm going to save this. Let me go back into ServiceNow, and I'll show you real quick. If you go into System Security Users, I'm going to hold the Control and left click to open up a new tab. I can search for Nuno Solutions, and you can see I actually have a user here. Now, just one thing, just be really careful when you create your new user. Make sure you add an ID, a first name and a last name, and then hit save. When you hit save, this password needs reset. It's going to automatically check. So you have to uncheck this after you've saved it. You got to go back in here, uncheck it, and update it again. But here's the deal. Before you do that, you got to make sure you set a password so you know what the password is. So you hit set password. And in this screen, you'll see the password field is actually disabled, but there's a little bit of a hack. If you hit F12 and open up the developer tools in your browser, and you click this little arrow button, it's the first one. This is the same in Edge, the same in Chrome, and I believe even in Firefox. You click on this, you can select a specific element on the page. So we're going to select the password. And then it takes you directly to the Elements tab in the Developer Tools, and it highlights the HTML that actually represents this text box or input control. All you have to do is double click on this disabled attribute and literally just delete it. And now you see the text box becomes enabled. And now you can set whatever password you want to set, and then you do save password. When you do this, I'm not going to do this because I already have the password in place. When you hit save here, I'm going to close this. No thanks. If you saved it, this automatically gets checked. You got to remember to come back in here, uncheck this, and then hit update, okay? Just don't forget that. That's all I wanted to show you guys on that point. Let me close this. Let me go back into incidents, which I have none. I'm going to go into Postman, and we're going to submit our JSON payload, right? So let's click send, and let's see if we get a good response back. No error this time. That's a good sign. And it looks like we received back a sysid and a number. So now, because this is the response we're getting back from the ServiceNow API, this incident number is actually the incident number within our ServiceNow. This is the response the customer would get. So this tells them what our incident ID is, or incident number, and also the record ID or the sysid. And you can see the message here, incident was created in the external instance. Perfect. So let's look for an incident that ends in 10038 in our ServiceNow platform. I'm going to hit click on incidents all. And there you go. Here's an incident number, an incident record, and you can see it's the same exact one, 10038. We're going to click on that to open it up so we can view the details. And you can, so first things first, let's go into the details here. So the short description and description, Nuno solution, short description, my first incident via integration. And you can see the short description and the description is set exactly correct. The assignment group is set to Nuno solutions. That's the assignment group that we sent. The priority right now is not set correctly. So the status is set to new, which is correct. The reason why priority is not set correctly is because it's based on impact and urgency. And I'm sending priority, not impact and urgency. You could actually customize this to work differently. So in our B2B integration, when the JSON payload, really what we should be sending is the impact and the urgency to generate the priority, right? But don't worry about that for now. Let's scroll down and just see what we see at the bottom here. We're going to collapse this search results. And you can see the external number is set to exactly what's in our JSON payload, which is, this is the external sysid, and this is the external incident number. And that's exactly here. By the way, these fields, if you want to add these to your system, let me show you real quick how to do that. On the top bar, the header bar of the incident, right click that, and then you want to do configure, and you want to go to table. Let me unpin this so we can see a little bit more of the screen here. And now if you go down to the bottom, mine is automatically filtering on where the keyword's external, but that's because I had done this before. So let me just get rid of that and run. This is, when you go into here, this is what you should see. And now where it says table columns for text, then you could just say external, press enter. It's going to do a search. If you don't have these in your system, which you won't, these are custom user defined columns. What you want to do is click new here. And you're going to enter in here the field names. When you enter the field names, the column name gets automatically populated. And let me just show you how I set those so you can see what they look like. I'll open up external number. So you want to set them up as string. You give it the label that you want. And again, if you give external space number, it'll automatically transform this part to the correct column name. That this is the name that you're going to be using in your script, right? You want to set this to read only, and the reason why that is because we're going to add these fields to the screen. We added these to the screen, you saw them, but we don't want the users manually changing these. Also, by the way, in a real live platform, these fields are not, you don't make these visible to the end users. These are really more for if you want to do some troubleshooting and you want to see what they look like on your end. You could add these fields to your incident form so you can see what if they're, so you can troubleshoot. It helps you troubleshoot. You want to set the max length to 40 on this one, on the external number, and then for the external sysid, again, you want to set this to 40, max length to 40. Now, I just want to point out that if you're doing an integration with Sherwell's record IDs are, I think, 42 the length, I believe. So the external sysid, you might want to set this to depending on the size that you want to support, you might want to make it a larger size. But for ServiceNow, the max length of a sysid is 40. So that's why I set these to 40. Okay. Again, mark it as read only, and just make sure you name it properly and set the data type to string. Okay. Make sure it's also active. Okay. Let's go back into the incidents. Go back in here, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to the notes tab. And you're going to see there in the activity section, there's something in here. So number one, this is automatically created, right? It tells you how it was created. But this note right here, external incident created by Nuno F. Pereira. And then there's enter, like these are the carriage returns I was talking about. And it says this is a journal entry. This is the comments that we posted in the JSON payload. And this is the automatic text that gets added to the activity when we create a new incident. And if you go to the script, actually, let's do it like this. You want to go to web services, scripted REST APIs. I'm going to hold control so I can open up a new tab. Let's go into Nuno Solutions, my REST API. Let's go into incident. And this is what I was talking about when a new incident is created. Let me maximize this. Right here, when the incident is not found, which means we're creating a new incident, we're actually concatenating this external incident created by, and that's where the activity, this data goes in as an activity journal. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button. I would really appreciate that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.